Hello and welcome to Unbuilt Giants, a series that looks at the development and demise of some of history's most notable and sometimes bizarre skyscraper projects. The Merry Hill Tower was a bold and controversial proposal unveiled in the late 1980s by developers Don and Roy Richardson, who envisioned building the tallest structure in the world at their sprawling Merry Hill retail and leisure complex near Dudley in the West Midlands. Standing at a planned height of 2,000 feet, the tower was to include a hotel at its base, a revolving restaurant halfway up, and an observatory and nightclub at its summit, offering sweeping views across the Black Country. Announced during a period of rapid commercial expansion and deregulated enterprise, the project embodied the Richardsons' ambition to turn a former steelworks into a symbol of modern economic revival and private sector dominance. Though it never advanced beyond early publicity and ground surveys, the tower captured widespread attention and remains one of the most ambitious, unbuilt landmarks in British development history. In the early 1980s, as traditional industries across the West Midlands collapsed under the pressure of global economic shifts and domestic restructuring, the region faced mounting unemployment and widespread urban decay. Responding to this crisis, the recently elected Conservative government under Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher introduced a policy of enterprise zones, designated areas aimed at reviving stagnant local economies through deregulation and financial incentives. These zones offered a suite of benefits to encourage private sector investment, including exemption from business rates, enhanced capital allowances, and more lenient planning rules. On the 29th of October 1980, the government approved Dudley Council's application for one such enterprise zone in Brierley Hill, an area that included the green expanse of Merry Hill Farm, and later, the decommissioned Round Oak Steelworks. The farm had long been valued by locals as a natural retreat, while the steelworks had symbolized the industrial heart of the Black Country. Its closure in December 1982 had dealt a devastating blow to the community, eliminating more than 1,300 jobs in a single stroke. Initially, it was hoped that these enterprise zone measures would lure new manufacturing operations to the area, helping to restore the economic stability that industrial decline had eroded. However, large-scale manufacturing never returned. Instead, Don and Roy Richardson, twin brothers and local entrepreneurs from nearby Oldbury, saw an alternative opportunity in the retail and leisure sectors. Having purchased the Merry Hill Farm and Round Oak sites, the Richardsons decided to reimagine the area as a major commercial destination. They recognized that the very incentives designed to attract factories could just as easily fuel the creation of a sprawling shopping complex. Thus began the transformation of Merry Hill, from a patch of farmland and abandoned industrial infrastructure into a gleaming temple of consumerism. Construction on the first phase of the development commenced in 1985. Despite local opposition, particularly from residents dismayed by the loss of green space and concerned planners wary of the consequences for nearby high streets, the project moved swiftly. By Christmas that same year, retail warehouses such as MFI and Atlantis Electrical were already open for business. Within just a few years, the site had evolved into a vast complex, with successive phases adding retail parks, indoor shopping malls, leisure facilities, and eventually a 10-screen cinema and a food court designed with an ambitious, almost theatrical flair. The expansion was relentless. Roads were reworked, infrastructure upgraded, and by the end of the 1980s, Merry Hill had become the largest shopping centre in Europe, drawing millions of visitors each year. Its polished marble facades, endless rows of chain stores, and vast car parks captured the imagination of both shoppers and investors. The centre epitomised a shift in British retail culture, a pivot away from traditional town centres and towards out-of-town megamalls. Amid this rapid growth, the Richardsons unveiled ambitious plans for what would have been one of the most striking and controversial architectural feats in British history, the Merry Hill Tower. Set within the Richardsons' sprawling 200-acre Merry Hill retail and leisure complex near Dudley in the West Midlands, the proposed structure was designed to reach a staggering 2,000 feet in height. At the time, this would have made it not only the tallest building in the United Kingdom, but the tallest in the world, outstripping the Empire State Building by over 700 feet, the World Trade Center's Twin Towers by 630 feet, the Sears Tower by 550 feet, and the CN Tower in Toronto by 185 feet, whilst also standing at more than 3 times the height of the NatWest Tower in the City of London. The proposed tower was to occupy a commanding position on a ridge overlooking the existing shopping centre, giving it maximum visibility and prominence. Its design reflected a hybrid of commercial ambition and futuristic spectacle. At ground level, the base of the tower would accommodate a high-end hotel, offering accommodation and services for both tourists and business travellers. Midway up, the structure would feature a fully revolving 400-seat restaurant, providing panoramic views across the Black Country. Near the summit, the plans included a nightclub and an observatory, promising a nightlife experience quite literally above all others in Britain. Additionally, the tower was to house a telecommunications centre, which would serve both functional and revenue-generating purposes. The materials and construction approach reflected the scale and ambition of the project. The tower was to be constructed using steel, a choice aligned with the demands of such extreme height, but also in keeping with the Richardsons' penchant for dramatic high-spec finishes. This choice mirrored their extravagant use of imported Italian marble for the Merry Hill Centre itself, which had been shipped to Texas for cutting before being brought to Dudley for installation. The tower's skeletal steel frame would have supported not only its enormous height, but the multiple leisure, hospitality, and telecommunications functions integrated throughout its floors. Costing an estimated £100 million, the Merry Hill Tower was envisioned as a bold statement of regional resurgence in a post-industrial landscape, intended to draw international attention to the West Midlands and to signal the area's transformation from steelworks to service economy. Despite the absence of a single brick being laid, the idea of the tower had captivated the national media and captured a particular moment in time. Its height alone meant the tower would be visible from up to 30 miles away, dominating the skyline in a region not known for vertical landmarks. In the words of its backers, it was meant to inspire awe and symbolize economic confidence. Public reaction, however, revealed a stark divide. A poll conducted by a local newspaper found that 95% of respondents were opposed to the tower, citing concerns ranging from aesthetics and disruption to practical questions about its necessity. Roy Richardson was undeterred by the backlash, dismissing it as the opinion of people who aren't doers, not entrepreneurs, reinforcing the brothers' self-image as defiant, visionary risk-takers. Logistics was also a major problem for the tower. The Merry Hill Centre was already notorious for its poor public transport connections, served only by buses, while the nearest train station was at Cradley Heath, 1.3 miles to the southeast. While proposals were in the works for the creation of an LRT system, dubbed the West Midlands Metro, which would potentially reutilise local former railway track beds, the initial delivery of this system only covered the corridor route between Birmingham and Wolverhampton, bypassing the Dudley area. At Merry Hill itself, the developers had considered the creation of a monorail system which would eventually open in 1991 at a cost of £22 million, but this operation was strictly confined to the Merry Hill campus and should have logically formed the basis of wider connections with public transport such as the railway station at Cradley Heath. It would instead be a monumental failure, closing in 1996 after years of low ridership, sustained losses, and chronic unreliability. Following a rare 5.2 magnitude earthquake in Britain in April 1990, the strongest recorded in the country for many years, new concerns emerged around the tower's structural safety. The Richardsons responded by seeking consultation from leading seismologists in California, experts well-versed in earthquake-resistant design. This move was intended to bolster the credibility of the project and to demonstrate the developer's willingness to address safety with seriousness and rigor. The consultation also served to sustain the project's momentum in the face of mounting public skepticism and political resistance. In the end, the Merry Hill Tower was never built. What began as one of the most audacious architectural proposals in British post-war history was gradually and quietly abandoned. By 1992, only 3 years after it was first announced, the project had all but disappeared from public discourse, its demise unaccompanied by any formal cancellation or statement. The plan simply faded, as if it had never been intended to endure beyond its initial publicity blaze. Many viewed it as an extravagant folly, out of scale with the area and a poor fit for the region's needs. Dudley Council, still grappling with the fallout from the retail displacement caused by Merry Hill itself, lobbied central government successfully to amend the rules governing the enterprise zone. New regulations gave the council the authority to block any building over 300 feet, a clear attempt to halt the Richardsons' plans. At the same time, the developer's own priorities began to shift. Mountley, the company that acquired Merry Hill from the Richardsons in late 1990, soon encountered financial difficulties, leading to a failed sale and eventual receivership in 1992. The Richardsons, no longer directly involved with the centre's ownership or direction, may have lost their appetite for what had become a politically fraught and logistically uncertain venture. In the years that followed, the Merry Hill Tower lived on only in memory and myth. It became emblematic of the excesses and ambition of the late 1980s boom years, a fantasy of scale and spectacle that seemed almost plausible in the charged atmosphere of deregulation and consumer optimism. For some, it remains a tantalizing what-if, a symbol of regional pride unrealized. For others, it is a cautionary tale, a reminder of how grand visions can falter under the weight of reality. Today, the Unbuilt Tower stands as a ghost of Merry Hill's maximalist phase, a monument in the imagination, never constructed but never entirely forgotten. Conceived at a time when the Richardsons seemed unstoppable, it encapsulated their desire not only to reshape the economy of the Black Country, but to redefine its skyline. That the tower never materialized makes it no less significant. In its absence, it continues to loom large. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more episodes coming soon. See you next time.